Good afternoon, Year 11. Apologies for the delay in getting this to you. It took a little bit longer to put the video together and to get the resources uploaded than I expected, so I'm sorry. Today we're going to continue with our work on Poe's short story, The Tell-tale Heart, while focusing as well on English language paper 1. In this case, we're going to be moving on to question 5. This will give me enough time to take in the work that you've submitted, pick out the best questions for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and assemble for you a Language 1 practice paper. As you've probably read in the media, and you may have received a letter from the head teacher as well, your exams have been cancelled, which comes as a surprise to all of us. However, that doesn't mean that our studying ends. I fully appreciate it will become very difficult to remain focused and enthusiastic about your work if you don't have those exams that you were promised at the end of it. However, what we don't know is what's going to replace them. Something will definitely replace them. There will be some form of teacher assessment that will take their place, but we know nothing about them yet. We're waiting for the government and the examination boards to get back to us on that. So in the meantime, the best thing we can do is to carry on with our studies, because it's still very likely that whatever form of assessment takes place, it's still going to be based on your English language and your English literature, as we've done so far. So we can't just push aside the paper 1 study, we can't ignore the Shakespeare study or any of the other texts that we've looked at. It's still going to be assessed in some form or another, so we need to stay on target, which is what we're doing today. So enough of that. Let's move on to The Tell-tale Heart and the narrative or imaginative writing that we're going to do with it today. Now, turning back to The Tell-tale Heart, we haven't studied it in the depth that I would like, and we'll come back to it if we have time. But one of the things that Poe is very good at is building suspense in a very 19th century kind of style. It's not suspense in the way you might read a Stephen King novel or your horror or terror suspense writer of choice, but he does use quite a few good literary techniques to achieve very specific effects. And we're looking at one of them and how you can apply that in your own writing. But just as an example here, you can see on the screen his use of the short sentences, especially when they're in the middle, kind of building up very factual statements, suggesting something about the narrator, framed on the other side by these longer, more rambling type sentences or heavily punctuated sentences, create a very specific effect. His use of repetition, the very precise use of punctuation are very important. The fact that he's presenting us with an unreliable narrator, where there is a tension between what the narrator says and what we as a reader understand, is a very advanced technique that hopefully some of you might be able to apply in the piece of writing that's coming. And then the vocabulary choice is very precise as well. All 5 of these things are precisely things that will score you well in the Edexcel question 5 English language paper 1 question. So they're good techniques for us to practice, which is what we're going to do. By the way, you can see here on the left some YouTube clips that if you haven't watched them yet, I recommend you do because they're fun. The first one from The Simpsons is a bit of a classic, and it's a retelling of one of Poe's other stories called The Raven. You may have already seen the Vincent Price one, which was one of the first things a young animator called Tim Burton did before he became an extremely famous film director. And you have another animation here that is tied into Poe. But what I want us to focus on here is this technique of using the em dashes. We looked at this previously, how the long dash, the dash separates information, how it can create a heavier pause than a comma or a semicolon or whatever, and how you can use it to show the fragmented thoughts of a narrator. This works especially well in first person. Now there's a range of poems that if we were actually studying poetry, we might look at that use this exactly. But for now, we're going to try and apply this in our own piece of writing. Now, so you see here an extract from the short story. True, nervous, Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been an M. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How, then, am I mad? Hearken, and observe how healthily, how calmly, I can tell you the whole story. Now, I've chosen this extract as a useful example that we can emulate, that we can copy and adapt into our own writing. There are a few things worth noticing in the narrative that Edgar Allan Poe has written here. So the fact that the narrator begins by saying, why would you say I am mad? Of course, leads you automatically to question, okay, why is this guy saying that? He's probably mad. He talks about a disease, and so that introduces something else into the story. Okay. He talks about his hearing and how he can hear heaven and earth and then hell. So that might tell you something as well. Why is he focusing on hell? So all these elements and then his insistence on calmness create a sense of character beyond just the moments of the plot. So how do we adapt that into our own writing? Well, here's an example that I've put together for you. True, angry. Very, very terribly angry I have been and am. But why will you say that I'm crazy? My rage has focused my mind, not distracted, not weakened it. Above all are my feelings powerful. I feel more than you can possibly imagine. You feel nothing. How is it that I am the crazy one? Listen and learn how well, how peacefully, how succinctly I can tell you the story of how and why I killed the man who called himself my father. Okay, so now bringing this back to our paper 1, just in case you don't remember from before Christmas when we were looking at this, this is what the section B, question 5 or 6 looks like. You get 45 minutes and they will usually give you an image. So look at the images provided and they give you a question. Write about a time when. So write about a time when you met somebody new. Your response could be real or imagined. That part is always there. You may wish to base your response on one of the images, or you'll get a question that won't be based on a picture, as this one. Write about a time when something strange or unusual happened to you or someone you know. Your response could be real or imagined. I mean, this question could directly apply to the Poe story we've just read. And then the images they give here will be something like this, or like this, perhaps not applying so much to what we're doing right now. So how do we adapt this to the Poe story to give us something that we can practice our narrative writing skills and try and apply that kind of heavily punctuated style of writing that hints at the state of mind of the narrator without explicitly giving it away in a much more dull and basic style. Okay, so here we are. Here is a question of the style you'd find in paper 1, but linked in a way to what we've been studying with the Tell-tale Heart. So look at the images provided. I'll show them to you in a minute. Write about a time when you were very stressed or anxious. Your response can be real or imagined. You may wish to base your response on one of the images. Now, you don't have to write a piece of fiction about a murder. Obviously, the narrator of the Tell-tale Heart is very stressed or anxious, and that's why he ends up revealing his guilt. He can't repress that sense of guilt or anxiety that exists within him after the murder. You might go for something far more normal or human. And it could be exam related, it could be lockdown related, it could be sibling related, it could be real, it could be imagined, it could be something about your religion or faith, your beliefs, something that's happening in your life right now. It could be about the coup, the attempted coup that's just happened in America. I leave that to you. The images that are here to help may or may not help at all. Although when you see something like this, you might want to try and pick up on some of the details. The American flag in the background there, that uneven piece of toast, and the fruit, and the vegetation beyond the window, and what this boy is looking at. If you want to create something a bit more fictional. And so, I turn this back to you now. Your objective for this lesson, your expected outcome, is for you to produce a piece of writing based on the question 5 that I've given you, that tries to emulate, to copy or draw from some of the style of what we see in Poe in the Tell-tale Heart. I'm not expecting you to write for a full 45 minutes, so you don't have to try and write 2 to 3 pages of writing here. I'm expecting about 25 to 30 minutes of writing, though you're more than welcome to extend beyond that if you get into it. But I do need you to produce a piece of writing that demonstrates some of that advanced use of punctuation. Some of the elements of the writing you're doing today, it has to be in the first person, so you can best apply the technique that we've just seen. Do not hesitate to copy directly from Poe and then adapt as necessary to your own writing. That's one of the ways we learn a new style. All the resources you need for this will be on Teams. So you got this PowerPoint, which is all you need, really. Once you finish the work, please upload it to Teams. You've got a longer deadline on this one since we don't need it immediately. Tomorrow, I will be assembling your questions 1, 2, 3, 4 that you should have submitted by now. I'm going to go check. And I will assemble that into an exam, which I will then pass on to you. Good luck. And I do look forward to the day where we can meet in person again. Take care, keep safe, and goodbye.